Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. Well, good morning everybody. You'll probably be hearing foghorns in the background here. We've had several, well, what we call hot days here on the island, I guess. It never actually got up to 30 degrees. I think I did see it go to 29 someplace that I was driving on the island. My truck has a external thermometer in it, and I think it went to 29 degrees. But we had several days like that, 28, 29 degrees. And for some reason, I'm not a weather forecaster, but for some reason that always ends up in fog here a few days into it, which is usually quite welcome because the fog is much cooler. But it's supposed to clear off today. The rest of the province is still in a heat wave, but we're supposed to only go to 25 degrees today, so I'll survive that. What we're looking at right now is my Buttercup squash patch, and I just wanted to show you that there are a number of blossoms. So most things like this that have both male and female blossoms and need to be pollinated by either the gardener or pollinators usually start with a lot of male flowers, and you wait quite a while before you see female blossoms. Well, this thing here was just the opposite. I think I had 4, maybe 5 female flowers before there was ever a male flower to pollinate them. So what I did, I took male blossoms off of zucchini plants and hand pollinated them with that, and it seems to have worked. Some of the little tiny buttercup squash are starting to grow anyway, and if they weren't pollinated they would just wither up, turn yellow, and fall off the vine. So I'll now give you a little look inside of what's happening in the greenhouse. I'll start off just standing in the doorway here and giving you as wide an angle as this camera will do anyway. Look inside. If you look right here, I guess, that San Marzano tomato, indeterminate variety, has almost reached its total height before I have to clip the top on the thing. It's got about, I don't know, maybe 10 inches or so to go before it reaches the top of the hoop house. And it's set quite a bit of fruit. I will show that to you in just a minute here. We're going to take a closer look. And the determinate varieties, the Roma tomatoes, they've also, I think, mostly maxed out on their height and are setting quite a bit of fruit. Well, the first thing to be noticed in this particular area is the mystery plant is gone. That thing grew 6-7 feet tall and would have gone much taller if I'd allowed it to, and literally had thousands of little white flowers on it. Unbelievable, and I couldn't see where any of them were starting to form whatever the seed would be contained in. Anyway, it was taking over this area. It was shading out my cucumbers and my melons. I just got tired of it and pulled it up with the roots and threw it out the door. I'm never going to know exactly what it was. A lot of people have said they thought it was a wild cucumber. Well, I don't know. Any kind of a cucumber having that many flowers and sort of like long spikes of these white blossoms. It was a strange weed anyway. I don't want it taking over the greenhouse, so it is gone. And the cucumbers and melons seem to have appreciated the extra space. It's been a few days now since I removed it. I have both male and female flowers on my 2 kinds of melons. One is a watermelon, moon and stars, and the other is a sort of like a cantaloupe type melon. Anyway, I'm hoping that they're setting fruit. I haven't done any hand pollinating because the door is open in here all day and pollinators come and go, including a monarch butterfly that's been in here for several days and it sort of acts like it's trying to get out of here. And the door's wide open, it can't find its way out. I'm looking at it right now. It's over there sitting on a zinnia plant. That's the monarch with its wings folded up. It hasn't started flying around yet this morning. Like I say, it's been in here now for at least 3 or 4 days. Well, I've been getting lots of cucumbers. I only have 2 cucumber plants. And as I have said several times in the past, they're one of the varieties that's called parthenocarpic. Just means that they have all female blossoms and they don't need to be pollinated. Every blossom will produce a cucumber. With 2 plants, I'm growing more than I can use. I made so much relish and pickles and things last year that I don't need to make any this year. So I've already been sharing these with neighbors. I just picked those 3. It's It's European gherkin is what the variety is. And that's about maximum size. They're delicious. I've been using them in sandwiches and salads and whatever. And as I say, giving quite a few away. Well, I think I just picked my 3rd. Yeah, I'm sure it's the 3rd zucchini. Pretty good sized one. I like them actually even a bit smaller than that. I don't like them when they get terribly big because they fill full of seeds. But they have been performing more what I would call traditional for a plant that has both male and female flowers. For the longest time they just put out male flowers. And then I only have 2 plants. I've got one in here in the greenhouse and one out in the garden. So they weren't close enough even for the bees to share the pollen back and forth. So I had to wait until I saw a plant that had a female blossom, and if the other plant had a male blossom, I picked it and hand pollinated. But right now they're now producing both male and female, so I don't have to do any more hand pollinating. I grew 1 of each of the perennial and biennial plants or whatever in the greenhouse and planted the rest out in the garden. This is a zinnia called Magellan Salmon. Pretty thing. And it's just as well that I grew it in here because most of the other ones out in the garden were devoured by something. And this one is in, well, almost full bloom. It's got more blossom buds opening, but right now I see 4 flowers on it. Very pretty. Well, the monarch is awake, and it seems to be enjoying the black-eyed Susans. Maybe that's why it never leaves here. It must be getting nectar or whatever off the black-eyed Susan flowers. And as you can see, the black-eyed Susan in here has got a lot of flowers on it. They're also blooming out in the garden and in the area where I've tried to naturalize them. So I'll give you a look at that before this video is over. Well, if you can remember from a video or 2 ago, I mentioned that the hollyhocks that I planted were from 2 different seed packets, 2 different companies. One package called them biennials, the other one called them perennials. And a lot of people have commented and said they are a biennial, and that is the most common definition of them. However, this one in here, hopefully you can see in there and amongst the leaves, is budded. It's going to bloom first year. And there's one out in the garden that's doing the same thing. So this thing is performing as an annual. Hopefully I'm showing you what I mean to show you, but there are blossom buds at the axil of each of the leaves. And on the very top of the plant, there is a thing growing up there that would appear to have numerous blossom buds in it. And as I said, there's one out in the garden that's doing the same thing. So I was expecting to wait to see flowers until at least next year. If it was perennial or biannual, it wouldn't bloom until next year. But they're behaving like they are an annual, I guess. I guess I have it on the right object I'm trying to show you. There are 2 daikon radish that are left. They're enormous, and I'm going to pull them today anyway to make a little more space in here for other plants that are trying to grow. But that particular one that we're looking at there is starting to go to seed, starting to flower. So you wouldn't do that with a regular radish. You'd pull it before that, so I assume I would do the same to a daikon. The daikon that I showed in the last video, I made pickled daikon with it, just from a very simple recipe that I found online. And they're very good once you get by the smell of when you open the bottle. I don't know what you'd call the odor, but it's sort of fermenting, I guess, or whatever. But they're delicious and very crunchy. And I used some of last year's chili de árbol chilies that I ground into a powder. The recipe called for a red chili, and I didn't have any fresh red chili, so I put a heaping teaspoon of that powder in, and that's given them a really nice kick. Well, I just rinsed them off a bit with the garden hose. They still need to be cleaned more thoroughly. And that is the weird ones that I was getting earlier on. Last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was I did that last video, I pulled one to show you, and it happened to be perfectly straight. Well, there are only 5 plants in that area. 4 of them are like this. I don't know the explanation. Well, I mean, one grew perfectly normal, so you could grow normal in that soil, I guess, but with carrots, if that happens, it's because you've got too much compost, you've used too much compost manure or too much of your own compost or whatever. The soil's too rich for carrots, and they will do that. So maybe that's something similar happens with the daikon. Well, this is one of the trusses on the San Marzano. Tomatoes in there. They're doing quite nicely. Like that truss is pretty well filled out. There's still a couple of blossom things at the end here. And I guess next to it there's another plant that has, oh, they're a bit larger. Maybe they came out first, but it's the first truss on each one of them that's developing like that, and they haven't reached their full height yet, and so far they have at least 3, maybe 4 trusses per plant. So there's hope of a good San Marzano harvest at some time here. This is the basil. The seedlings came in from Richter's. Growing beautifully in here this year. I do see 1 or 2 blossom spikes that I'm going to have to pinch out right now, but normally it would have been, I'd have been fighting that for quite some time, picking off the blossom spikes, but this time the plant is growing beautifully, so hopefully there will still be basil available when I have ripe tomatoes. And this is a sage plant that overwintered in here. Part of it died, and I was a little concerned about it earlier, but obviously I didn't need to be concerned. It is absolutely beautiful. This is just one of the chili varieties. I won't take you around and show you each variety. You see one chili plant with white flowers on it, you've seen them all. This particular variety is the peperoncini, Italian, very popular Italian chili. I spent some time working on 2 farms in Italy, and both of them always had peperoncini on the table, either in flake form or ground into a powder form, and it was used liberally at every meal. Well, it is clearing off, the sun is out, and it's getting hot in here, so I'm glad I finished inside. We'll take a look around outside at a few things now. Evidently I have created a butterfly garden. It flew just when I got the camera ready, but the same monarch butterfly, or another one outside here, was on this Chinese forget-me-not. It's an annual. The regular forget-me-not that we grow in our gardens is a biennial, even though you do see it every year because it throws its seed and grows new plants this year that will bloom next year, so it blooms every year in early spring. The Chinese forget-me-not is an annual, and the blossoms are larger, and it's over 2 feet tall, which is also uncharacteristic. I don't know if it'll drop seed and come back from seed another year or not. This was from a free packet of seeds that I got from the Annapolis Seed Company when I placed my order with them. They always include a free packet of something. This year it was the Chinese forget-me-not. Well, the flower that you're seeing there is a malva called the hollyhock malva. Has been in bloom for a long time now. Perhaps if I were deadheading it I would get more, but I'm tending to let it go to seed. I'd like to scatter the seeds in other areas on my property. The regular Malva, the white one, and the pink one that I've had for years, spreads prolifically from seeds. So I'm hoping this will do the same thing. But if you can see it or not, I don't know. But that is another one of the hollyhocks in behind it, and it has also got buds and is going to bloom. So both inside the greenhouse and outside, it wasn't the extra heat that caused it. These things are performing like an annual. And this is my Brunnera macrophylla, Queen of Hearts. It has been doing very well. I was worried that it was going to get too much sun in this area, but evidently it's just shade enough for it. It has already bloomed twice with little blue flowers, and I just noticed now that it is sending up a third blossom spike. I don't know if I can get you zoomed in on that closely enough or not, but there is a little blue flower showing on it already, so that will become much longer. And we'll have more tiny little blue flowers, almost like a forget-me-not flower. I can't exactly put my finger on it why I'm not satisfied with them, but I have not been satisfied with the way the potatoes are growing. They're looking knocked about there now because each one of them has been for a wheelbarrow ride. I moved them from the location where they were and put them in front of this squash bed here where I thought maybe the problem might be that they weren't getting sun enough. I don't know. Also could be the stuff that I use to grow them in called mega soil. I guess they don't look that bad, but I just think this time of year they should be much better than that. Shouldn't be so scraggly. Two of them have got flower heads on, and they are a variety called Superior, which I guess is like a mid-season variety. So I won't harvest mine until the tops start to die back, and I'll see what I get down below there. Hopefully I've been wrong and there's some nice potatoes growing there. Now this is out where the potatoes were growing until I just moved them. And that is one of the last of the hollyhock plants to get transplanted out. I put them in this area hoping they would just sort of naturalize. That particular one isn't much over a foot tall. Hopefully you can see what I'm trying to show you. It's covered in blossom buds. Now, they're all performing like an annual. And it's a bit disturbing because I suspect if they bloom and die back that they won't come back next spring. I might be wrong. I won't pull anything up this fall, that's for sure. But I was expecting them to act like a biennial or a perennial and just grow a good root system and some top this year and next year bloom. But looks like I'm going to have hollyhock blossoms this year. Well, I'll show you a few things up around the house before I close this down. I won't go to the community garden this time. I will do that in my next video. The only thing I'm growing there is butternut squash and a couple of large sunflowers in the middle of it. They have completely filled my raised bed there and are starting to trail across the lawn. But this is the beginning of the 4th week of July, and so far up there hasn't been a single flower. Now I do see male and female blossom buds, so hopefully in the next week or so they will bloom. But the concerning thing is that they are slower to develop than the Buttercup ones that I'm growing here. And really the end of August is the end of summer for us. The calendar says the 21st of September is fall, but our climate gets quite cool the last week of August and carries on in September. No danger of frost. We won't have frost until at least mid-October, maybe even later, but cool weather slows everything down whether there's frost or not. So anxious to see if I actually get anything up there. The variety is called Nutter Butter. It's not the conventional butternut squash. It's smaller. I think each fruit was supposed to be around a pound or so that may help. If I get some pollinated, they may actually develop. This is the area where I'm trying to naturalize the black-eyed Susans. I don't know how many plants are planted here, but probably a dozen or more around the circle here, semicircle. It's an area where I park my truck in winter. Makes it easier for the man who clears my snow. He makes one swoop by here and goes down to the house, and I move the truck out on the highway for him. But I'll give you a close-up look at some of the black-eyed Susans. I've also got, out of the seed packet, I've got several varieties. Now this is what they are supposed to look like. The seed packet was black-eyed Susans Rebecca Herta, which is the wild variety. Obviously, I don't remember the name of the company. I think I've thrown the seed packet out, but not from a pure strain. I have a lot of them that look like this, is what they're supposed to look like. And I have this out of the same seed packet. And I have a few that are, well, the early blossoms coming out anyway are kind of deformed. So it was not a package of great seed, but if they survive the winter and rebloom for me, I'll be thrilled. I've tried to grow them a few times in the past and didn't have any success, but this is the first time that I've grown them from seed. Well, that will conclude this little video. Thank you very much for watching.